Hello. I am starting slowly, just a little bit before 12, um, just to see if everything is working, and slowly kind of make my way into it because I don't really know how this will work. So this is the first time that I'm doing this kind of live, where I will try to show a bit of the process, but also just to explain materials. I'm thinking now as well, I will just keep it like this for now, and then I will need to change it for the demonstration, I think, but we will see. I think it's already 12 o'clock, so I'll slowly start. I'd like to welcome everyone, and those also who won't be watching this live. I hope everything is okay. You can hear me very well. It's very hard to know because you can't really hear anything on the other side, on the other end. So for those who don't know me, my name is Basia and I run Edinburgh School of Icon Painting. I recently realized that the school has been here already 8 years, which is, I think, is really long time. So I'm very proud of it and happy. I don't know if every one of you here know me. The school basically runs workshops on icon painting, but also people can learn egg tempera technique. And just to explain the technique, in this technique we actually use egg yolk and we bake our own paints. So I can show you, I already prepared egg yolk for the purpose of this demonstration and this session. But another time I'm planning to also demonstrate how to prepare egg yolk medium. So this medium will bind your pigments. In the mixture you have egg yolk and lager or white wine vinegar. And you mix it equally, so same volume both. Later on, I think if you need some more information that you didn't manage to write down, you will be okay to ask questions at the end, and I will try to answer. If not, I can always leave some information on Facebook page, or you can contact me as well later on. So this is our medium. We also need dry pigments. So I'm also being aware that now we need to stay home. So it might be a bit difficult for people to get materials. I don't know, maybe you can still order, I imagine. So for those who don't have pigments and don't have any other materials, I will explain, and also I can tell you where to get them, where are the best places to get them. For pigments, I'm starting with this yellow ochre. This is one of the basic pigments. I can even open it a little bit. So it's a powdered color. This one is a natural pigment, so it's made of earth. We try to use natural materials here. So sometimes it's impossible. With some colors it's very difficult to achieve to have it made from natural ingredients. Some of them will be very expensive, like minerals, for example. So there are some artificial pigments like cadmium red, for example, very bright colors especially, would be very expensive if you made them of natural materials. So unfortunately we have to use artificial. Then for example, we have ultramarine blue. That is actually natural pigment, but it's not true lapis lazuli. Lapis lazuli is as well quite expensive. So you see, you always have an option here. You don't have to buy very expensive materials. I think it's a very economical technique. Also considering that lots of these things you can buy in a supermarket, like egg. Then there's red ochre. I realize that it's not very structured, but I can write it down later on for people. And please ask me if you need a list of pigments as well. I can give you a list of basic pigments that would be enough, 7 pigments to get you started. So there is burnt umber as well. As this is an earthly pigment as well, made of earth. I'm trying to maybe put it here so you can see it's very tricky to keep everything in the screen. And then there's black iron oxide, titanium white. Then sometimes I use a stronger green, so chromium oxide, or green oxide it's called as well. And then I think green umber as well. And then, so these are the pigments I think that are enough. I will repeat it in a moment, just so maybe you can write down if you want. This would be enough, maybe cadmium red as well, just to get you started, you know, to start doing it. You don't have to have quite so many different colors. It's actually really good to keep your palette limited. So I can repeat that now. So yellow ochre, red ochre, green umber, burnt umber, black iron oxide, ultramarine blue, or ultramarine as well you can call it, titanium white, green oxide or chromium oxide, and cadmium red. And this is enough. You can contact me to ask what pigments if you didn't manage to write it down. And then what we need next, we need some brushes. So for this technique we use mainly squirrel brushes, and especially the method that I'm teaching, which is a Russian method. You need your brushes to be very soft. So there are different brands of brushes. You can use Russian brushes. Russian brushes I found are the best. Then again, I can direct you to where you can order them online. I received an email from the company, Italian company that I am using, that they're still sending shipping materials. This of course may change, so we need to all keep an eye on it. It's a bit difficult these times. I think I was also thinking because of the materials, you know, normally it's not so difficult to get them, or you can come to my studio and I can prepare pigments for you. I was even thinking about doing that, but now I can't really go there, so it's becoming a bit more tricky, but we will find a way. There is always a way. You can even use acrylic paints and mix it with medium. So I will be trying to do loads of instructions and record making videos of them, just so there are different ways for you to keep working. So squirrel brushes, and for Russian brushes it's enough to have 3 brushes or even 2 brushes. You don't have to have a lot of brushes. So size 2, size 4, that is more than enough. Then, you know, as you get into it, maybe you want to try different brushes. You can also use sable brushes, but sable brushes are a bit harder, so I wouldn't use them for surfaces, for coats. They are really good for very fine detail, because they hold the shape a bit better. So yeah, sable brushes, and then Kolinsky brushes, which is a kind of sable. Again, you can ask me later on if you need to have more information about it. After brushes, so we've got pigments, we've got egg medium and brushes. It's enough to have a very small palette, so you can use something like this. But also, I realize it might be not possible to get it now, so it's okay to just use a plate. I use these plastic plates, but I try to reuse them. So you can see there is a rough surface here that helps you to grind the pigments. Especially for very coarse pigments, this is really good. and you can reuse it so many times. So and it's very easy to find. So I always try to make sure that materials are easily accessible. Then now you need a panel or some sort of board, some sort of surface to work on. Again, I realize it's going to be a bit trickier now to get your materials, so I will try to give you lots of options. First, you can buy something that is called Clayboard. This is already with started image. Clayboard you can easily find online. If you just Google it, Clayboard, it will come up and you can order it online with different sizes. There are very small sizes, like a postcard size. This one, for example, is really good for practicing. So even for like painting a small icon or just like practicing applying the color, which is really good for you, because if you start from something that is not very scary, you know, not particular image, you easily get used to the technique. You become more confident, and then when you start painting actual icon, you feel much more relaxed. So it's all about trying to feel more at ease, and I think I always find being playful as well. So treating this as something fun to do as well, not only something very serious. I find it makes a massive difference, you know, in your experience. So clay boards. Also, there's something that is called gesso board. Gesso board. I know I realize it's in a mirror image, but just to show you how it looks. So this is the same size, sort of like a little bit bigger than a postcard size. It's really. You can't really. Yes, I just got a question from Liz, thank you. It's a really good question. Yes, so the clayboards will be very slippery. Sometimes they don't absorb the paint as well as a less slippery, as kind of slidey surface. So yes, you can use sandpaper, maybe 400, 600, just to sand it a little bit. And that should help, but don't do it too heavily, because the surface is very thin there. It's not like a proper board with like very thick surface. Then it's still, I think, possible to order icon boards. They can come with gesso already, so you don't have to prepare your gesso home. This looks like this. So this gesso I made myself, so you can still see the goals here, which I'll trim later on. And it looks like this in the back. So it's made of lime wood. And in the place that I'm recommending, they also make panels, make boards with gesso. And there's also flat boards and all sorts of different surfaces. So if this is possible for you, this is a really good surface to work on. However, if you're just starting, it's okay to just start with a clay board. Sometimes it might be easier for you, because the board, it looks very pretty. You know, when it comes, it smells really nice, it works really pretty, looks really pretty. But it may be a bit scary as a first surface. So you may feel a little bit, you know, you may start kind of find yourself being a bit cautious, careful, because it's such a lovely surface. You feel maybe like you don't want to spoil it. Then it's okay. It's best to start with something a bit less serious. Also, if this all is impossible for you, you can also practice on the paper. So best, of course, you would be watercolor paper that is primed, thicker. Thin paper, it will be very tricky with this paint, with this technique. But if you have a thicker paper, you can easily use it just for practicing, trying, you know, brush work, applying surfaces, and, you know, you can mix colors, see how it works. It's okay always to contact me if you have any questions. I'm only asking for some support in this time, so I included a link to just to give a donation. Because as you probably aware, for all us self-employed people, it's like everything stopped in a way. But I'm trying to keep it going, and I want to keep being connected to people as well, to my students, and maybe perhaps new people that are not able to normally come to Edinburgh. So I'm hoping to promote this technique, this lovely technique, and to share this lovely technique with you. So I will repeat again materials that we need, just in case. So we need egg yolk and lager or white wine. We need pigments, just to show you a couple of pigments. We need brushes and boards and some sort of palette and water. And that's enough to get us started. For the images, so you can either find an image online and download it, and if you have a printer, print it, or you can just use it on your, you can just have it on your phone, on laptop. It is obviously not ideal, but if you don't have a printer, it would be good enough. Sometimes it's good because you can enlarge and see more detail. So really depending on, you know, what you have at home. I do have some printed images here, and if you are just starting this, I recommend starting with a very simple image, but also important that you like an image. So if it's a bit more complicated and you feel really connected to it, I would go for that. But if the image that is very simple attracts you, that's best for now. And I was also thinking, just to show you as well what are the possibilities a little bit. So usually you can start with something like this, maybe. So it's a very simple face. You don't have to do the decoration in the background, but you can. Or if you prefer angels, usually people like angels a lot. There is something about them that people find maybe attractive. But also you can work on an image that is not religious if you prefer. So for example, this is a Mami portrait, Fayum portrait. That these are even older than icons, so these are from the ancient Egypt, from Roman times, and they have a similar idea behind them, similar kind of want to show the world that is already transformed. You know, once people cross over. So they were painted while these people were still alive, but the features were changed, so they're not exactly true to the way the people looked. So you can see, for example, I'll show you again the big eyes and the features stylized, very similar to icons. So when we talk about icons, usually we go back to these images as well. So you choose any image that it works for you, but it's quite simple. As well, you can ask me that. You can either message me on Facebook or you can email me. There is an email on the page. If not, then you can ask me in the message to give me, and I'll give you my email. And then I can recommend, you can ask me if the image would be good for you. Then I think that's enough about materials. I don't know, I can actually really read it here, so if there are any questions about materials, you can ask me now. I'll wait a couple of minutes. Before then, I'm going to have to maybe rearrange a little bit just to make sure that you can see. And you can also let me know if you can see what am I doing well once I start painting. I will start with because I don't see any questions, so I'll just introduce a little bit. I will start with just showing you how to mix the paint. There is a way to do that as well. It's very simple, but it's good to see someone doing it. And then I will continue on an image that I already started. I was thinking how to prepare this, and I thought, because this is not going to be that long a video, not 5 hours. Normally, if I would do a demonstration, maybe it would be like 4 hours, which as well would be really doing it a bit faster than I would normally do it. Because we build with thin layers, so the process takes quite a lot of time, which is also an opportunity for you to slow down, to connect a little bit. Yes, so yeah. So the proportion of a lager and egg is just 1:1. So it's the same volume of both. And just to remind you that you can also use white wine and white wine vinegar. So depends what you've got or what you can get. They're all good. However, people have preferences, so it's, you know, you can just try that as well, test it, what works for you. So the image that I prepared, I already started it. It's this image. Maybe people can tell me if you can see very well. Otherwise, I can try to do it from above. So maybe then you can see a bit better. Also, probably the image is a bit distorted now. So if you can give me some feedback if you prefer for the camera to come above, so you can see it from above, or if this is okay. No one's saying. Okay, so I'm going to maybe start a little bit, just starting with mixing. How do you mix the pigment? So what I will be using, I use my brush to measure everything, and it's okay to use your brush. It doesn't have to be very, very precise. So this is my prepared medium already, 1:1 egg yolk and wine. I'll take maybe 4 brushes of that, just put it in my palette. Just for you to write down, there is a proportion of egg medium and water for your paint. So 1 drop of egg medium or 1 brush of egg medium and 3 brushes or 3 drops of water. So that is quite important too. So you can write it down, or then you can replay the video as well later on. And then I decide what pigment I want to use. This case I'll be using yellow ochre and maybe a bit of titanium white. So already, I don't know if it's easy to see, because I already started painting this image. So already I have a base here. And a little bit of yellow started. It's very, I realize it's going to be very hard to see, because it's only very few layers on that. So that explains as well the nature of the technique. We work with very thin layers. So our first layers, it's almost like you can't really see the effect. Only with building up and carrying on, continuing with layers, then you can see shapes emerging. So it's just slowing down, being slow. So yellow ochre. So I'll take it with my brush from the container. It's okay, you don't have to use anything else. As long as there is no liquid dripping off your brush, so making sure it's not too wet, it's okay to put it into your container. And then I'm just going to mix it with my brush in this kind of movement, so like up and down, or just in one way, rather than going round. So trying to take care of your brushes is very important. Brushes are very soft, so they would be damaged really easily. But if you are careful and look after them, they can last for a very long time. Even with like a very, very intense use, sometimes even up to 2 years, it's still a good brush. So just being, very mindful and looking after your good brushes. And then I can add a little bit more yellow ochre, just to show you. So you want to make sure that all the grain is mixed. All the grain is mixed very well before you add your water. So we are trying to not to add water before we mix our pigment. Some pigments don't like water, so they wouldn't mix very well. But once you mix them with egg, it should be very easy. I'm going to add a bit more and mix it again. So now it's becoming quite thick, as you can see. This will be really good because then you can see the consistency. Sometimes when I teach it's very hard because I just have to explain it, you know, just with words, but this is really good. So now I need to add my water. What I did, so I did add 4 brushes of egg, so I need 3 times more water here. And I will use my brush again to measure. Then sometimes you need to check your consistency. Sometimes you still need to add some pigment. Then it's okay to do that. I see now that this is quite weak. I don't know if you can see, but maybe I can show you a little bit. So I want to add a bit more pigment. I'm actually finding that it's possible and easy to answer the questions as I paint even. So that's really good to know. So you can ask questions as well. I was a bit worried about that I won't be able to see. So a bit more, just to make it a bit thicker. But being aware that we work with very thin paint. So maybe if you compare it to something, it's a little bit like the thickness of watercolor paint, a bit thicker, but definitely not as thick as acrylics or oils in most cases. And then, because I already have some yellow there, I will add a little bit of white. What I want to do, I don't really want my paint to be much lighter, I just want it to be a bit stronger. So I will be very cautious with adding white. Titanium white, there's different kinds of whites. Titanium white, it's a very strong pigment. So when you will notice, once you mix your yellow, you see you add a lot of pigment, it doesn't make it very thick. Because it's a very, very weak pigment. But titanium white is very strong. There is a question, I just used egg yolk, just only egg yolk. You don't want any white in it. And also, once you separate, you notice there is a membrane on your egg, just surrounding your egg, holding a yolk together. You don't need that either. So I am aware that it's very good to see someone preparing that before you do it. So what I will do, I will post a separate video of just preparation of egg yolk medium. Because I was thinking it would be very tricky to do it. I would have to go to my kitchen, you know, it's a bit tricky. So don't worry about it. I will record a video and then I will post it on Facebook. So this is my white. I'm adding tiny touch. So you see it's only on the very tip of the brush. And then I will mix it into my mixture. And now I can see that I want it to be a bit stronger, so I can add a little bit more, but not straight away. So it's always better to add small amounts of pigments and then judge, you know, what do you need, how it's working, and add more, rather than add loads of it. So I will add a bit more. Sometimes there's grain there, so you need to be careful with that as well. Because if you have lots of grain, you will obviously add more. And then you can mix it like this. Now I can see that is better, that is a bit stronger, slightly whiter, but as I said, I don't really need it very white. Just you need to let me know if you can see it very well, if I need to move something or anything that will help you to see it better. Now, we always use a very dry brush with this technique, so we don't want lots of paint to be on our brushes. That's why we often use a little bit of toilet roll or a tissue. I'm just going to use Kleenex, just tissue, just to dry our brushes just a little bit. So once you take from your palette, you can remove a bit of your brush and then dry it a little bit, depending on the surface, of course, as well. And then you can start painting. So I'm focusing on the light areas of the face. So very dry, but you can see that I'm making a difference. I hope you can see that. Let me know if I need to go slower, paint slower maybe, or if it's okay. And I think now I just will be painting for a while. But it's okay, you can ask me questions as well. So we are trying not to go over the wet surface, just moving on, down, not to repeat the brush stroke on the same surface. I don't know, I apologize if my cat is meowing there in the background. I hope it's not disturbing. Yes, of course. So if you see, I could also try to, or maybe I could also try to change the angle. Probably it does, but it won't lunch all the time, I think. So looks like this at the moment, and I just wanted to explain a bit. So this is the first stage of painting lights, and this method we don't work with shading too much. We build our shapes with light. So this is the first so-called first lights, we call them. So you prepare a foundation, which is this color there, this color, the green color, and then on the top of that we paint with lights, which is our yellow ochre and a touch of white. Here I'm going to try to show you as much of the process of building lights as possible. So I'm going to need to do a bit quicker than I would usually do it. And you can see, I don't know if you can see, but I am changing the direction of my brush work. I'll try to show you a little bit better. So this is already maybe like 2 layers on the forehead. And so what I'm trying to do, each time I do a new layer, yes, you will get, yeah, it will get lighter as I apply layers. So even though I will be using for the same mixture for a while, it will get lighter and lighter. Hello, Bronwyn, it's nice to see you too. And then once I have enough, I kind of judge it. Once I have enough on this at this stage, first lights, then I will add more white, and I will be covering smaller surfaces. But I'm hoping to do it soon. So I'm trying to do a different direction, just not to work in the same direction all the time. If you do that, then you repeat the same brush shape, brush mark, and then becomes stronger and stronger. What we are going for, it's fairly smooth surface. It's okay to have texture, but we don't want it to be too expressive. I don't know if expressive is a good word. Not too textury. Things can be quite expressive, actually, I think, here. I'll show you in a minute how it is now. So it looks like this at the moment. I don't know if you can see that it's already stronger. So you start seeing the shapes emerging from the ground. I am just thinking now, I'll try to do it, I will try to do something like this every day or 5 days a week, just to kind of keep being connected to this medium. I think it's really important at the moment to feel like we are being connected still. Hello Dara. Hello Nico. Nice to see you too. So do you think, Nico? Do you think it would be better if I have my phone from above? Because I have I have a tripod. I could do that. Maybe it would be better. I'm going to try that. Then you won't be able to see my face, but you can still hear me. I think. I'll just test it. So can you hear me? That's good. So only I will be able to read the comments, but not as easily as before because the phone is just above me. But yeah, at least you can see better. Oh, great! Thank you. So I think now I can start lighter light. So I just add more white to the same mixture. And then I'll add a bit more water just to make it a bit thinner. Oh, I can see there someone is asking, but it will be a bit tricky for me to read it, but I'll do my best. Yes, Kasia, yeah, it will be accessible. The video, I think it's accessible for forever. It doesn't really go off Facebook. So I think you can watch it, you know, so many times later after the live is finished. So always it's good to test your color. See if maybe it's a bit too light or too dark. I think now it's maybe a bit too strong. So what I'm going to do, I'll add more water. So adding more water to your paint, it makes your color darker as well in a way. So when you apply it on your surface, it's not going to be as strong. Because I added a bit water, I will add a touch of egg as well. Just a tiny touch of egg. just to keep the balance in the mixture. And see if it's the right consistency and strength. It looks like it's okay. So now when I'm doing lighter color, I want to cover smaller surfaces. Still quite broad, but not the same. Yeah, I think Nico, it is good as well. You just need to try it, you know. So I've never came across that pigment. So it's different kinds of whites you can use. I think I would just try. Some of them are a bit weaker, so then you need to adjust your proportion. So just for everyone to know, like there are different kinds of white pigment. This one that I'm using is one of the strongest. But there's also zinc white as well in pigment. There's cream white, which is actually quite yellowy, very delicate. So it's depending what you like and what you're using it for. So you can see how it settles down, tempers down really quickly. But with building layers, you will become stronger. Then I think I want to prepare something even lighter. I'll do it separately so I can keep this color just in case I need it. So here you can see I can even change the shape of what I already have with this paint. And lots of people, lots of my students say that this is a very forgiving technique, which I think this is, that's what I love about it. So you can change things as you go, and it makes it very alive, you know, like an image is becoming as you work on it. Then I think then I will leave the lights for a while and I'll work on my lines a little bit to show you that as well. You might want to change your brush for that. You don't always have to. If you're using something very light and then very dark, it's good to change your brush. But if the paint is similar, you don't have to. So I'll just use burnt umber and red ochre. I saw there is maybe another question that I missed. I'm trying to. Why don't the layers of paint don't mix when together when they are wet? We, if you work with this technique, if you work wet on wet, you will be just removing the paint. So that's why the surface needs to be dry before you apply the next one. So we don't work wet on wet, really. I don't know if that answers your question. I don't know, Diane, if that answers your question. So here we don't mix on the surface. In the sense like you work with oils or acrylics. The layers mix together. Once you apply one layer after another on the top of each other, they mix together like this on the surface, rather than you mixing with your brush. There's another question there, I think. Oh, it's very hard to say how many layers of highlights I applied so far. But I imagine it's at least 12. So around 12, I would say. Because I had some layers before I started this afternoon. And altogether, it's very hard to say also altogether how many layers it will be. But I would say that it's at least 20 altogether for the highlights. So now I will try to do something else. This will be also on the skin. So because, as you can probably see, this is becoming very pale, and we don't want this to stay like that. So what you do, you apply red color, but very lightly, so very, very transparent, very little pigment, just to introduce more warmth to the surface, to the face. But also it works a bit like a shading, and as you can see, there's this edge here that it can be a bit harsh. I usually keep it very soft, but still it can be a little bit too harsh. So this will soften that as well. So just using maybe different brush for that. It's a bit too much pigment. Which I'm just going to write another question. Read another question. Sharon, I don't know what you mean by did I have a break from painting icons. So, do you mean did I not paint icons but paint other things for a while? If so, I do have regular breaks usually, where I try to paint other things, but I often use this technique in other kind of my island kind of work as well. And then I'll go back with yellow again. So maybe going back to something that is not as light as this. Maybe even this one. Yes, Nico, there is, so for the red color we use it very diluted, so very little pigment, but it's the same mixture of egg, medium and water, but just very little pigment. Thank you, Liz. That's really nice to hear. I actually was thinking as I was doing this to do another demonstration of something more that is more personal to me, something more contemporary. So yeah, this would be a great chance to share the contemporary style as well. So I think for now, so this is I would say phase almost finished, but it now needs to settle down. So the the paint works even when we don't work on our surface. So I see when I see it tomorrow again, it's going to be very different. You know, well, not very different, but a little bit different. Probably not as contrasted. So what you want to see it again and keep working on it a little bit more. But it shows you the idea. I'm going to take out my phone from there so I can see the questions better, but also that's me again. So thank you for being here, Liz. Yeah, so I think I'll just show you the result. So at the moment it's like this. If you can remember how it was when we started, then you can see the progress. I will schedule another live to carry on with this image. Hopefully tomorrow, but I'm not sure, depending. So I will post with the time, and then of course if you're not able to be here live when I'm doing it, you can also watch it later. Yeah, what I was going to say, I got a bit distracted. And I would like to do these lives, as I said. I will try to do it 5 days a week, every day. At least show a bit of a process, and maybe if you then have some questions, things like that. And then what Liz was saying, I would love to share some of my more personal work. And even show the process as well, because it would be very different than this one. This is a traditional process, and it's a traditional style as well. But I also work in a contemporary style, which is, I would say, more my personal style. And I also am often inspired by this tradition to do different things, so different kind of painting. But it comes always with me, I think it always comes from this tradition. So if there are still any questions about the process, about what I was doing, about the materials that I was talking about before the beginning, and then I can also give you, however, I'll tell you where you can buy the materials. But some of them have complicated names, so I can also then write it down in a separate post. But I will tell you as well. So before I see any questions, I can say a little bit about materials again. So there is an Italian supplier that supplies practically anything that is connected to this technique and icons. So you can buy anything, boards, brushes, pigments, and they also do, which is very unusual, they do smaller amounts of pigments. Normally it's very hard to get like these little containers. I just make them myself, you know. Usually at least 50 gram, that's what you can buy. With some pigments you might need, like yellow ochre, 50 gram makes sense. But with other pigments, you don't really need that much. You know, it will last a lifetime unless you would be painting every day. So, the Italian place, it's called Dal Molin. And I would need to write it down for you because it has another, which is an Italian name, which is not so easy for me. But Dal Molin, separately. This is an Italian supplier, so they have everything, and they ship worldwide. And as I was saying before, I got an email from them. They were saying they'll still making shipments. So I think, yeah, it would be a good time to do it. I don't know if they're going to carry on or not, or if they're going to need to stop. And on the website, so if you find them on their website, there is an English version of the website as well, of the shop, and then you've got everything for gold gilding, for in terms of pigments, boards, icon boards, but they also do more economical, they call it. The deep mixing palette, but I think it was brought to me by one of my students, and it's just an egg holder, I think, and it came from IKEA, so I don't know if it's still there. You can maybe check, but it was not made originally as a palette. I think you can buy these. You can try to just Google ceramic palette. Just Google ceramic palette. However, you know what? I would check the Dalmolin, because they may have some ceramic palettes. It might be something similar. So just have a look, Liz. What I will do in a separate post. So I hope you can get, you can see that. I will write down all the names. Another supplier is Cornelissen. This one is in London, based in London. However, I find they're much more expensive than the one in Italy. They don't do boards. They just do something that is similar to clay boards. But clay boards you can buy online very easily. Clay boards, it's Jackson Arts that supply them, that sell them, distribute them. And there is all sorts of different sizes. Depends what you want. And then what else for the materials? I think these three actually. So the clay boards and then Jackson Art for clay boards. Cornelissen would have some pigments, but bigger amounts. Some brushes for sure, and other things. And Dalmolin has everything. So Dalmolin is like separate words, but I will write it down and post it in a separate post just after we finish here. And are there any questions? Any more questions about materials? All the process. So I'm happy to still answer. If no, then we can slowly finish, and then I will keep you posted about other videos, but I think I'll try to keep it noon every day, just so it's the same, and then people that can't be here live, they can watch it later on. And then you can ask questions in the messages as well, and then email as well, and yeah, I just wanted to say thank you for being here. I'm really happy that I managed to do it. I was feeling a bit overwhelmed with the situation, and having to rethink everything, the way I work. It's definitely not going to be the same. Someone is asking to see how I paint small faces and scene. I will try to include that. Thank you for that, Kasia. This will need a little bit more organizing, because I'll need to have a composition prepared. But I will try to think how to organize it. Definitely, that sounds like a good idea. Yeah. So as I was saying, I'm really, really happy that I managed to do it, and I feel a bit better now. Being able to kind of see that there are people there that are interested. Maybe it's an opportunity as well to connect with people that can't come to Edinburgh. But yeah, thank you so much for being here and for your questions. And I hope to, in a sense, see you tomorrow as well. And I will post what I will be doing tomorrow. I will still. But also you can message me what you would like me to demonstrate. I know Liz was saying about gesso. Hello, Gillian. I just saw that you joined. about the gesso. So I'm going to need to think how to organize that as well, so I can show you how to prepare and how to apply gesso on panels. As you can imagine, I don't really have many panels in the moment. I was a bit surprised by all this, like everyone. So the panels that I've got already have gesso on them, but I will think how I can do it and how I can accommodate everyone. So I think that's it for today. Thank you so much for joining. And those who just joined and who didn't watch the whole thing, you can watch it later on. Doesn't have to be live. And have a lovely day. And take care of yourself. I hope you're all well. Thank you so much. I'm just going to go now.